productivity. The way we calculated productivity is not good anymore. So there's so many things that we're going through that we have to grasp, and it's a multitude of facets in our business. I mean, we were just talking this week, executives, about are we going to hire people into our companies that are in the technology world? They don't want to work for pension funds and long-term investors. That's not where they want to be. You're talking about entrepreneurship. This is where they want to be. So we're also struggling with that. So coming back to education, I think this partnership between us, between the private sector, specifically in finance, is extremely important, because you will also allow us or help us understand the new generation to come, for us to be able to integrate them, because we are not from that generation. We worked very hard to get to the positions where we are, and the kids today, exactly that. They're like, well, I mean, I want to be a CEO. I'm like, yeah, but there are steps to get there. And they're like, okay, it's not interesting. I'm going on my bike for a month. Where are you going? So it's a very different world in so many aspects.
Well, thank you. I would like to come back to some of the things that you have said. A lot have been said about the possibility of partnership. We're talking a lot about partnerships between business, private or public sector, and between the education sector. And we are very fortunate to have both on this panel. Coming from a university, I know that we like very much partnership when we have internship and when businesses give us money for chair, for research. But as soon as they want something more, you know, academia and university want to be completely independent in the way of conducting research. So how open are we? Because we need these partnerships. We don't know where skills are going. We don't know how fast artificial intelligence is developing. Well, we talk about the robots, but we don't yet know how fast, when is it's occurring. Yes, it's absolutely true. But how fast is it going to be evolving, and where is it going exactly? So my question is that how open are we from the business side and from the university side into going more into these partnerships? And have you thought about means, about ways of having this partnership evolve between private, public sectors, and also education? I will let you, okay, Dr.
I'd like to really make 3 comments, very, very briefly.
Okay.
The first one relates to the relationship between the university and the employer. In the past, there was a tendency, at least on some part of us as professors, is that we are concerned about the education of young people. We're not concerned about their employability. I think those times have gone by the wayside. I feel very, very strongly that we can educate our young people and provide them with the opportunity to be employed. We have no choice in the matter. I mean, the university cost is skyrocketing. Only to tell parents we're only concerned about the education of your kids, whether they find jobs or not, this is unacceptable. So we can hit 2 birds with 1 single stone. And that is absolutely essential in terms of the relationship between the university and, you know, the employer. The private sector, the government, doesn't really matter who. We need to be quite open about that. The second issue, which is absolutely essential, is experiential learning. This is something that is absolutely essential for nowadays. Because of what I spoke about, we can no longer afford to keep our kids only in the classroom. We need to put them out, either through co-ops or experiential learning or internships, and have really the input from the employers in order really to adjust our academic programs. Absolutely essential. We have no choice in the matter. The third comments, I think our officials have left. It is quite regrettable, and I say that emphatically, it's quite regrettable that higher education in Lebanon has been politicized and monetized. That higher education, education in general, in fact, was the crown or the jewel in the crown of what we do as Lebanese. To use it for political reasons or monetary reason is shameful. And that ought to be stopped.
Thank you, Dr. Shepard. Dr. Shepard, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, thank you for the question, which was about partnerships between the outside world and the universities. I agree with my colleague that the time has passed when university faculty so prized independence as a kind of fundamental value that they didn't want to talk to people in the private sector or crown corporations. I think there are a lot of partnerships now. The question Dr. Seba had for us is, how ready are we? I think there's the philosophical worry about independence, but there's actually a practical matter, which is real partnerships, deep partnerships are expensive. They're expensive for the private sector and they're expensive for us. They're not free. They cost something on both sides. And I know that, for example, in our cooperative education program, I've seen since I've been president a sharp rise in the number of students participating. But I also know that costs something because I need staff members who will be liaisons with the private sector or the parapublic sector to make those partnerships happen. And I really appreciate it when CEOs and other leaders signal from the top, this matters to us, this matters to our workforce, this is a contribution to the health and well-being of our society, that we're participating in this way. So I don't think it's often philosophical. I think it's more routine than that. It costs money to like have the kind of pathways that you need. But I would agree that the partnerships are really fundamental to the next generation learning model that we're trying to pursue, which is to get people out of the classrooms and practicing their skills, their numeracy, their writing, their speaking skills. Those are transferable skills, and they're fundamental.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a little bit in terms of my experience. We have 13 chairs with 13 universities across Canada. We invest over $30 million with universities. And the biggest problem that Canada has, and yes, I'm Lebanese, but I've been out of Lebanon for 30 years, but I know every single Lebanese student would want to immigrate somewhere else, because even in Canada, the biggest problem we have is talent. Actually hanging on to talent, retaining talent, and going and finding the best talent. I had to hire 3 VPs. I had to go to England, India, and San Jose to bring people to Canada, because you hit a ceiling. Because that partnership that we have between universities, that we hand you the check, we do the ceremony, we cut the ribbon, and here you go, but where's the ROI for Canada? Because our students that are coming here, we're not making it easy for them to stay here.
Agree.
Our government is complicated as hell, because they're like, oh, you can't be here for another year because you need another year to get your paperwork. So we bring all these international students here, and at the end of the day, shake their hand, and your visa expired, get out. So we need a better alignment with the government. We need better alignment with the universities and higher expectation in terms of, I hand you the check, you hand me your best talent. That's the one thing that we're missing today, that collaboration between the university, the government, and the corporation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And actually, that was very interesting, and you've made my life easier for the transition, because this was exactly what Vice President Nada Maria Anid would have loved to say, is talk about the infrastructure. It's good for universities to do all they have to do for skills improvement, for programs, but working with government and having the infrastructure to keep the jobs, to make way for interesting jobs also is very important as well. And Lebanon is known for having extraordinary education systems. However, people don't stay there. I mean, they would go and start working in other countries. Would anyone would like to comment again on partnership? Okay, Dr. Harvey.
You want me to make
Okay,
one more comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
It is absolutely essential for the success of higher education to have quality control. It is not acceptable that in Lebanon we have to go to outside the accrediting agency in order to control the quality, of our higher education system. Now, we're an American institute, AUB and LAU. We go to accrediting agencies in the United States. We've been working with the government for a long time in order to get a national system of quality control, and because of the politics, we haven't been able to do it. I call upon the people from Lebanon, from here, to really put pressure on the government to have a national quality control system in Lebanon. Why can't we do it? Why do we have to go to the outside world in order to invite them and tell them, come to us and please assess our programs? It is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Dr. Harvey, you wanted to comment on it?
I'll make two comments. Thank you for the point about emotional intelligence, because I think we often talk about the challenges of a new world that is technologically driven. And what gets lost in that discussion is one of the major challenges, and this was identified in the World Economic Forum, is that the real preparation from that is in things like problem solving, creativity, ability to work and interact with others, teamwork. These are the things that are emerging as the skills of the future, and not necessarily having people that are the technical experts for all of the technology that's emerging, although that's necessary as well. So that's an important point to drive home, to remember that that's a critical part of our future. And then the other statistic that we often talk about is that 65, 70%, add any number you want, of the jobs are going to be here in the next decade. What are our children going to be doing for jobs? It's probably safe to say that many of the organizations that exist today are not going to exist in the future either, because the world of work is changing. The world of expectations and the economy is changing. So that if we are taking our guidance from employment views now, they may not be the ones that are going to help us restructure our institutions, our universities for the future. So I think that it's a safe bet that we really need to be looking much further. I often say that when we think about changing technology today, we should be talking to the kids that are in elementary school, because those are the people to whom we were going to really be making a change for, as opposed to the ones that are currently with us, who are, frankly, not an indication of what we face in 10 years from now.
Thank you.
I was looking at time. I think I have a comment that is maybe not following your discussion, but I think that it's important to mention, so I'm going to just say it. Since I prepare educators, right? And I prepare instructional designers to design learning experiences in this AI era. I just want to say that we might have all these dreams and all these technologies, but we really need to prepare our educators for this. When I started teaching or facilitating learning with the PBL approach, with the problem-based learning approach, with no content, it was very challenging for me at the beginning. It's really challenging for educators to let go, to feel that, okay, we can enter a classroom where our students can know more things than we are, that we are part of the group, so this is very challenging. We need to prepare our educators for that. We need to prepare them for working with machines, with the AI, right, that is coming. There are so many things that will be done by AI, and to be able to work with these machines on a set shared goals, it's also very challenging for educators. So we want to do the revolution, but we need to take them with us. Like, we can't tell them this is what will be happening without just throwing them into this chaos. We need to take them and prepare them for this.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. So we have only very few minutes left. Can I ask you to do something, maybe give one thought as a conclusion of what you would wish for the education system for the next decade?
There is about 4.5 million Lebanese people in Lebanon, and there's about 3 times 4 more outside of Lebanon. We are, as my father said, it doesn't matter where you throw a Lebanese, they land standing. بالعربي مطرح ما بتكب اللبناني بيجي واقف. Right? So I say this and I literally have goosebumps for a reason. There's so many successful Lebanese people everywhere you go. It doesn't matter what country. The fact that we're not giving back to our country, and some of us are losing the identity and the passion that we were all born with, to give back and make a small country as small as Lebanon the best of the best, shame on us.
Thank you.
I need you all to believe that we're capable of giving back. We're capable of making the next generation of the Lebanese outside of Lebanon as passionate as we are. At 47 years old, I still say I'm a proud Lebanese and a grateful Canadian. So believe in giving back to the country that made us who we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. Rana, one thought.
I have to say it's very
If
hard
not, they're
to
going to kick
follow.
us out. It's always to follow, difficult to follow.
It's the
Roland.
first time this happens to me, but very, very hard. No, I need to shake your hand.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm very proud to sit here with you up here and with all of you. And I think education is extremely important in our future for our children. I have an 8-year-old as well, and I think I look to you to help us and to all of us to get him where he needs to be and have a bright future as we did.
Thank you.
And I'm also a proud Lebanese, so thank you.
I would certainly say that what I would hope to see in the next decade is that several of our universities in Lebanon would be a shining example for the rest of the world as to how a country can design a higher education system that takes its population to the next level. Lebanon is very well known for having highly educated individuals who have populated the world with experience and impact. I'd like to see it to have populate and impact Lebanon as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
As president of LAU, and on behalf of my colleagues, the other presidents of our sister institution, I promise you, I commit to you, and passionately so, that we will continue to be a shining light in higher education, not only in Lebanon, not only in the region, but beyond as well internationally. And we need your support. We need your encouragement. And we need your commitment. And together, we will conquer the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Nadia?
Yeah, again, it's super difficult to come after all of you.
More difficult
I think I'm super excited to be here, and again, thank you so much. And yes, we will do it. We can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Nadia. And
I
the
think
last
I'm gonna-
words would be yours.
I think I'm one of the honorary Lebanese up here this afternoon. I'm also an immigrant to Canada, and I often meet with our international students who have come to Concordia to study with us. We have about almost 20% of our students are international, almost 10,000 students. And I just wanted to say, and many of them are from Lebanon, many of them are from Lebanon. I just want to say how much respect I have for international students who make a decision to travel across a globe to get an education. That takes courage, it takes organizational skills, it takes commitment, it takes real vision for their own educations to say, I'm going to go to wherever it is, whether it's to Canada or anywhere else in the world, to get an international experience and international education. I think that is very fantastic and how I deeply respect that.
Well, please join me in thanking all the panelists. The time has come up. We have another panel coming also. So many thanks for all the panelists. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for all the time you have put into it in our exchanges and in preparing for it. So thank you for being here. I hope that this panel on education will continue, will strive, that it will further some collaborations between Canadian, American institutions and Lebanese institutions. So we hope education is at the center of our lives, at the center of the universe, and is going to have many challenges also to overcome and to come. So thank you very much.
And would like to thank our moderator for a terrific job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you. You did
Thank
a
you so
wonderful
much.
job. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Pleasure.
very much for
Pleasure.
being here. It was
Thank you so much.
I'd like to invite
fun.
Ambassador
Thank
Fadi
you.
Ziadeh to the stage, and I'd ask that you
Thank you.
please, the moderator and the panelists, please stay on the stage for an award presentation. very much. We're going to proceed with our next session, our final session. Before we head to our final session, though, I have been asked to make an announcement. We have found a cell phone for William Caferani. William, if you're around, your cell phone is at the info desk, so please make your way there. So thank you again to everyone from session 3. Thank you to our moderator, Dr. Tanya Saba, and to all of our panelists. Thank you. We're going to begin with session 4, and session 4 is our gastro diplomacy panel. Lebanese food has a way of warming the heart and soul of anyone who consumes it. I'd like to welcome the moderator for the gastro diplomacy panel, Mr. Joseph Shaib. I've just been asked to make one more announcement. Just a quick reminder to please pick up your invitation outside at the counter for the gala this evening. So if you haven't already picked up your invitation, please make your way outside to the counter and pick up your gala invitation. The gala starts at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I am delighted to welcome you to this distinguished panel of foodies. But it is foodies with a difference. What we are exploring today is the Lebanese food industry and its evolution in Lebanon and abroad. Let me first show you a couple of clips about the potential of Lebanon food industry. If I can ask you, please, to have a seat. We're about to start. A lot of work has been done, so please, I think we're ready to start. Thank you. You know, I think I'll do the seating. Thank you. Hello again to all. We have 4 exceptional people joining me on the panel today. They are successful business leaders and pioneers in their respective fields. But what I have discovered as I Googled them, it is that they are also community leaders and highly principled people of courage. Let me give you some headlines. Maya Noon has been an outspoken advocate for women's empowerment in Lebanon and in the Middle East, and she's the promotion of corporate social responsibility. Sumaya Mir'i is an entrepreneur who is an advocate for organic farming and healthy living, while at the same time hire people from challenging social economic backgrounds. Muhammad Fakih has set up his own foundation and supports entrepreneurs in unprivileged communities. But what struck me was the fact that he covered the funeral cost for the 6 worshippers who were slain in the mass shooting at Quebec City Mosque. Sami Ghusn kept harvesting grapes despite the threat of war. Maintaining the wine and arak can help spread the word that Lebanon is open for business in a spirit of tolerance and coexistence. I'm going to start by introducing each speaker, followed by a question, and then we open up to broader discussion amongst all. We will find a detailed biography of each panelist in your program book. My hope is that through our discussion, we can develop a concrete and realistic action. We, in the diaspora, can help the Lebanese companies increase their penetration in the Canadian market and perhaps other markets. But before I introduce, let me talk a little bit about myself. My name is Joe Shaib. I came to Canada in 1991 at the age of 13. I studied and worked in the family business. 20 years later, I went out on my own. I opened a fish market and a restaurant under one roof. I subsequently opened and sold 2 other fish restaurants. Raised with a sense of social responsibility, I also sit on the Cedar Cancer Foundation Board of Directors. Enough about me. Our first panelist is Maya Noon, and believe me, she is a force of nature. Maya owns Curly Q and Go Bites restaurant, as well as a catering company. She's also the General Secretary of the Syndicate of Owners and Restaurants, Cafes, Nightclubs, and Pastries in Lebanon. To kick it off, Maya, can you just try to elaborate a little bit? We've been talking a lot about Lebanese gastro-diplomacy. Can you tell us a little bit what it means and how it started?
First, I would like to thank His Excellency Minister Gebran Bassil for launching this initiative at LDE in Beirut in May. Lebanese gastro-diplomacy is all about promoting Lebanese cuisine around the world. It's also about encouraging the trade of Lebanese products and Lebanese industries. It also encourages the exchange of young chefs, so we're hoping to bring young chefs from all over the world, Lebanese origin chefs, to Lebanon to really get the taste of the real flavors of Lebanon. But most importantly, it's to engrave in everyone's minds that some foods were first invented on Lebanese soil and then exported to the world, although a lot of neighboring countries claim differently. So we really need to differentiate between Lebanese and Mediterranean, or Lebanese and Middle Eastern, Lebanese and Levantine. Each and every member of the Lebanese diaspora has a duty to propagate the Lebanese gastronomy around the world and help in strengthening our culinary heritage, which has been a bit stolen. So these are the main points of the Lebanese gastro-diplomacy initiative.
How are the tastes that evolving in Lebanon and the Middle East? How is it reflected in the different concepts that you have developed?
In Lebanon and the Middle East, we are very much up to date with the global food trends. And it is worth mentioning that the Lebanese are pioneers when it comes to developing new concepts and new initiatives. So they have developed successful homegrown concepts and prototypes and exported these concepts to a lot of the countries in the Middle East, the Gulf, Africa, and even in Europe recently. And this applies to a lot of cuisines, a lot of variety. We're talking not only about Lebanese gastronomy, but even about Asian, Indian, American, and all that. As far as the Lebanese food is concerned, it has not evolved in taste and flavor. However, we have noticed a big evolution on the street food trends. What used to be only an artisanal manouche or a falafel or a shawarma has become now a chain, a very structured chain with ISO, with HACCP, with SOPs and standards. Although the little artisanal ones still do exist. Another rising trend in the area is the increasing demand for vegan, gluten-free, organic, healthy. I think Sumaya will talk more about this later. And lactose-free products and restaurants. And this is actually a global trend, not just in the Middle East and Lebanon. To answer your second question, I've been in the business of owning, creating, developing, and operating restaurants in Lebanon and the Middle East. And my latest concepts, the two last concepts I've developed this year, are actually Curly Q was last year. Curly Q, for this concept, we used a state-of-the-art technology to create a new type of cake. It's the result of 2 years of research and development. Hence, we created a very unique concept. It's mainly all about a cake baked on a spit and baked layer after layer, and this is a very new concept.
Perfect. We'll come back for some more ideas. Sumaya Mir'i was born in Montreal and raised in Lebanon. She created today's Lebanon most specialized and healthiest confection factory and bakery called Taka. Sumaya, what I would like to know is that we had spoken before, I think it was an important factor you pointed out, is that you wanted to explain how you were able to finance your project in the beginning. Can you please tell us a little bit about how the idea came and how were you able to finance your project?
Definitely, I would like to elaborate on this point. Now, a lot of people, when they know that I'm a graduate from Concordia, I worked in Montreal, and 5 years ago, I decided to go back to Lebanon. And most people think that this might be a crazy concept to come back to Lebanon. And I was in Palais de Congrès 5 years ago at a trade show called Expo Manger Santé, and it was an explosive health snack trend that started. And I knew that I wanted to go back home and bring this to Lebanon. I just did not know how. So there was not really a business plan at the time, and there was not a strategy in place. So I went back home, and it started very basic, very small, and I went to trade. So I went directly to trade, and I got to know what trade is in Lebanon. In 2016, so 3 years later, when I was thick-skinned by then, after a lot of experience, بالسوق اللبناني, I decided to raise capital, and this is why I said that I would love to mention this, is that I went to the startup ecosystem. So I Am Capital, which is part of the Veritech Fund, Veridis, which is an environmental fund that supports green companies, and an angel investor. I was able to pool in enough investment today to automate my lines, have an international food management system. We distribute in Lebanon in 300 points of sale across modern trade and traditional trade. And we also are located in the regional markets. So today we export to Dubai, Qatar, Saudi's on the way. We've recently been in London. So Taka has made quite a little, it's flown a little bit. And also being a product that is healthy. So we're a vegan product. We don't work with genetically modified cereals. We're a dairy-free product. So we also were able to, we were the pioneers in healthy snacking today. And the brand is called Taka.
What are the natural products that you think could work if you import them to Canada?
I think in order to, what is unique or what differentiates the Lebanese product, my products, or at least this is what I think makes them different and had success in the Lebanese market, is that we have a relationship to them. So we integrate rose water, orange blossom water, roasted nuts, dates, a lot of dates in the products, dark chocolate that we're familiar with in the 90s, with vermicelle. So what I've tried to do is that I use Lebanese taste palettes and I reintroduce them in healthy snacking. And this is, I think, there's a point of differentiation, which is taste. The Taka products have distinct flavors to them.
Interesting. Muhammad Fakih arrived in Canada in 2000. In 2007, he bought Paramount Fine Foods in Toronto. A little more than a decade later, Paramount has over 2,000 employees, and by the end of this year, it's expected to have over 60, and I think you corrected me, 70. I'm sorry for there's a big difference. 70 locations in Canada and the United States and overseas. My question to you, Muhammad, is that how were you able to introduce North Americans to the wonders of Lebanese cuisine?
Well, I think anything you want to introduce to a new market, it stays within the same concept. Start with several steps. Step number one is knowing your audience. So you need to understand your audience, what they're looking for, and how can you bring them in. And you can see it already that all Canadians are looking for healthy food. So Lebanese food is healthy food. But on the other side, you need to find out what's the problem and how can you correct it. When I started, the problem was that Lebanese food was presented, moms and pop shawarma places, presented at very low level, didn't look great with nice decor, great system, right? And Canadians do want to venture outside the box. They actually appreciate other cultures. And what's better than food? In every religion, in every community, there is something very special about breaking bread together and sharing food together. So it was only the delivery of the Middle Eastern food. And most importantly as well, there is a very important point, besides knowing your audience, is make your audience familiar to the product you're going to bring in. So we started a campaign teaching Canadians how to say fattoush and how to say shish tawouk, because 90% of everyone's fear is basically embarrassing themselves or venturing into something that they're not comfortable with. When you teach them how to say it, you teach them how to cook it, you tell them that it's healthy, and you present it to them with similar environment than any other restaurant where they go when you're presenting it healthier, authentic. And most importantly, one last point is not to bring only food the way it tastes. It's just to bring the whole culture together. Because we do shareables back home, right? We put plates, we all eat in the same plate, we put leleme and we eat it. And it's very important to maintain the shareable culture. Canadians don't go to a Lebanese food to have a steak on their own, everyone separate plate. It's good to share the hummus and dip into the pita and the hummus. So bringing in a new product, especially food, to Canadians was almost an easy task. It's just simply you wanted to follow the Lebanese way of doing it, which is shareable food, sense of family coming together.
Obviously.
Right? And that like bringing all these factors made it very easy to Canadian. But as well, another step is Canadians are not used to have a Middle Eastern chain that has a location beside each other on every corner of Toronto, for example, right? And we made it available, and with the time is the enemy lately. Everyone has a problem with time, right? Having it available at multiple locations and easy to reach, it was a great factor for people to really come more often to eat to eat Lebanese food and to try to find out about Lebanese food. So we own something called Paramount Academy, where we have courses for non-Middle Eastern coming to learn how to cook Lebanese food. And you'll be very impressed and surprised how many people really call to register, and half of our classes are full. So, and that's the only way, is following a system, understanding what the audience want, facilitate it and make it simple for them. make them familiar so they're not embarrassed. Actually, they start coming to show off in front of their friend that they know the food, they know how to order, and they know how to share it all together, which is sense of family.
But has it been difficult for you when you were growing your company to have access to Lebanese products from Lebanon?
Well, there is difficulty of having access to sustainable standard, like with high standard Lebanese product that comes consistently to you. And when you're growing, sustainability and consistency is the secret sauce to success. So yeah, great. I mean, everybody can do a great shawarma, and my mom does the best tabbouleh, and your mom does the best kibbeh. But if you do it once, it's a hobby. If you can repeat it, it's a business, right?
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, a lot of people do it once, they hit it hard, and they are great, everybody goes, but can you repeat it?
Exactly the same thing every single time.
Absolutely, and the problem with the supplies, and I think it's a bigger vision. Lebanese that they are here in Canada that works in the food industry, and the Lebanese that they are working in Lebanon in the food industry need to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, if we're successful here, and we want to work with back home, which is add to our success, not only is the right thing to do. I like to talk a lot of more business, but you'll end up finding out the right thing to do and the most profitable thing to do possibly are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So the right thing to do is benefiting your country, but the profitable thing to do is advertising authentic ingredient. That means basically benefiting your own country. But there is an education piece, and I'm going to blame them on this one, because the suppliers, and you have nothing to do with it, you're not from the supplier side, but the suppliers in Lebanon, they do the first shipment right, the second shipment right, and the third shipment, it comes 80% comparing to the quality of the one before. So we need to work on making them understand and educate them on the bigger picture. I have several names of suppliers, and I'm not here definitely to defame anybody, but I have several names of suppliers where I used to buy from them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in Beirut, and I received bad shipments, so I had to stop immediately. So because you can't simply change your standard, because people will say, oh wow, Paramount now is growing, they started growing, and the quality changed. They don't understand that bringing authentic food, bringing that experience of Lebanese food with the Lebanese culture, it takes much more than one factor. It takes more than the ingredient, more than the culture. It takes consistent supply chain. So I think the Lebanese, including the government, including all the associations, need to work together to educate the suppliers in Lebanon to provide high quality supplies that we here can, like with 70 locations worldwide, I cannot afford to have my pickles tasting one way, the tahini tasting the other way every single month. And when you go to the scalability of 70 locations, over $150 million sales a year, that affects your sales, monthly. So it's very important to do the right thing from both sides, from the Lebanese that they're running food and beverage here in Canada or anywhere worldwide, but very important to monitor the quality of the supplies that the suppliers in Lebanon are shipping abroad, right? So we can maintain our success and consistency, and we can keep them busy so they can hire more Lebanese, and we have less young people leaving the country.
I'll come back for later. I think we have a lot to talk about on that subject. But let me jump to my friend. Our fourth panelist is Lebanon's leading winemaker. In 1992, Sami Ghassan started Masaya. 3 years later, he introduced Masaya Ara in the famous blue bottle. In 1998, he partnered with French winemakers and launched the Masaya Wine Company. 20 years later, Masaya Winery is in the Bekaa and Fara. Sami, I'm wondering if you can elaborate on the challenges you have faced in entering the North American market.
Yes, thank you, Joe, for the introduction. Let me just stress that you're very modest in your own introduction. The Shaib family came from Damour in the Troubles. The Shaib family came from Damour in the Troubles, and they are one of the most brilliant success stories. And not only that, in terms of success, financial success, I mean, they still embrace us. The first time I was in Montreal, Joe greeted me in his own restaurant, La Sirène, and every time I'm back here, thanks to his support, we did put Lebanese wines and Lebanese Ara on the map. How we penetrate the market, it's with endurance.
Mhm.
You know, nothing comes to you as a gift. Or I left Lebanon, we were displaced in 75 like you were, for France, then the US. I came back in 92 after the Syrian invasion of Lebanon, looting and so forth. I recuperated our land in the Bekaa Valley from squatters. I stayed on our own rooftop for 40 days while they were still in the house. Eventually, started Massaara and then met the Brunier family in Châteauneuf, and in Bordeaux, Dominique Ebrard, his family owned Cheval Blanc, and started the wine.
Can you hear Sammy well? No, I think we need to. Can we do something with the volume, please, at Sammy's mic?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, now we're talking.
So I'm not.
You're not going to repeat that again, right?
So we started Masaya after recuperating the land. I gave back my green card in 1990, and not to be tempted by facility, you turning back to the US. Now we export about 80% of production, and our bottleneck is basically production. I would like, you ask me how to penetrate the market. 3 points: quality, and this I will come back on, logistics, and demand. In this instance, for example, I would like to thank Minister Basile for his insistence on every occasion of having and serving Lebanese wine wherever the occasion presents itself. And not long ago, he was in Deir al-Ahmar, and there were 2 people there drinking Ara. You were one of them, Mr. Minister. While many Lebanese from the Bekaa drink whiskey. When I started Masaya in the Bekaa, they said, شو فهموا إذا جاي من بيروت جاي يعملنا عرق هون بزحلة. We came, we did the blue bottle, and I think it put back عرق making on the map. With the French, we needed also know-how. The most important know-how I came to discover is that the quality of a wine is in the grape. 98% of the quality of a wine is the grape. Lebanon, ladies and gentlemen, produces amongst the very best grapes in the world. It is no coincidence if the Romans, while their empire stretched all the way from Asia to Scotland, built the temple, the only temple for Bacchus, the god of grapes and wine, in Baalbek in the Bekaa Valley, not in Tuscany, Bordeaux, or certainly not Napa Valley. So what I would like to point out here is if every one of you, and I'm sure many of you do realize that, requested a bottle of Lebanese wine whenever they are going to a social occasion, like the minister has been requesting, like Ambassador Ziadeh stressed, like my dear friend Marwan Hayek and his company Alpha Support, like President Fair, I don't know if he's here, and Bank of Beirut support, SAQ had to airship a full pallet of wine because there wasn't enough Lebanese wine here, so we had to airship a pallet of Masaya wine. Just to tell you, because the quality is there, because the logistic you have to work on it, and the demand, you are the people that can. We should not, rely on the others to come to us and beg us for wine. It's not going to happen this way. We have to be there. Let me tell you 2 things about the quality. Lebanese wines are organic by default. We don't irrigate, we don't have to spray the grapes. We don't force nature in any way. And the second thing that is very important when you talk quality is the origin's reputation. You know, Chile under Pinochet, under dictatorship, could not sell wine. There would not be demand. South Africa under apartheid, they were not able to sell wine either. Nonetheless, and despite all the hardship around Lebanon and in Lebanon, thanks to each one of you, the reputation of Lebanon and the resonance of Lebanon remained positive, and people requested wine. Our main customers in Quebec or in Montreal and in general in Canada are not the Lebanese. The Lebanese opened the door. It's the Canadians now that are friends with Lebanese and friends with their generosity and friendship and all of that are ordering the wines. So if every Lebanese in Lebanon, especially the diaspora, would, take a bottle of wine when going to a social occasion, wherever it is, you would save farmers from leaving their land. You would save Lebanon from quarries, from asphalt, from concrete. A vine in Lebanon doesn't need watering. You know that. We have almost snow-capped mountains almost year long, and the vine doesn't need water. This is why this plant, our grandparents and ancestors had in front of every house, be it for the grape, for the vine leaves, for the wood, for the burning, for hostrum, all these, it's a very versatile brand. A bottle of wine in your mindset is one vine leaf planted in Lebanon. So this is, we would reach, Mr. Minister, the 100 million bottles from the 10 million we are producing today without forcing anyone's arm. Economically, we cannot do it anyway. But if the Lebanese diaspora, this is part of our Lebanity. And imagine the impact of how much this upscales Lebanon's image when you are offering a bottle of Lebanese wine and the discussion this brings. How many times I'm in New York and so forth. How can you make wine and there is so and so in Lebanon? And I'm not going to get political about it. But a bottle of wine from Lebanon is the message of Lebanon every one of us here craves for. I think time is up.
Yes.
I should shut up.
Twice already.
Twice.
You took double the time today. At the outset, let me thank for all panelists for participation today. Each of you have brought a unique perspective to the challenges facing the Lebanese food industry in Lebanon and in Canada and in the international market. On behalf of all of us, a big thank you. I am particularly pleased because I believe we accomplished what we set out to do. There are concrete measures that we, the diaspora, can pursue and help Lebanese companies access the Quebec and the Canadian market. My bet is similar initiatives can be undertaken elsewhere in North America and maybe the world. The game plan that we are proposing is as follows. The first step is to improve the link between Beirut and Montreal and Toronto. I have personally looked to import fresh fish, but have not been able to do so because there's no direct flight. We need a direct flight so we can have access to fresh produce. We have tried in the past with the Canadian government to approve a direct flight, and I know that Air Canada, for one, is very interested to do this route. We and the Lebanese government and the business leaders need to redouble our efforts. We need to continue lobbying, and we need to urge community leaders to step forward and get this job done. This is an essential part of our conversation, how we can grow, how we're be able at least to import all the Lebanese products that we need. I think a straight flight would solve an immense problem for everybody. The second step is to introduce Canadians to the taste of Lebanon. Our cuisine, our wines, and our spirits. We should have Lebanese cuisine featured in Montréal en Lumière, our city's annual winter festival in 2020. We bring Lebanese chefs over here to share in their talent. And we could have Lebanese wine pairing to go with the meal. I am nominating Maya to co-chair and organize this with me.
It's a pleasure.
Please approach me over the course of the weekend if you would like to join our group. I appreciate that the Canadian market extends beyond Montreal. And I am wondering if we cannot have a program similar to Montreal en Lumière in other Canadian cities. And if we bring our Lebanese chefs, we can also take them to Toronto, Vancouver. I will look to Muhammad for some guidance in this matter.
For sure.
The third step is to boost popularity of Lebanese wines. In Canada, in Canada, I'm sorry, there's over 50 wineries in Lebanon, and I think the numbers have been continuously going up, Sami?
Yes, sorry, how much you said?
The number I have is 50. 50 wineries?
Yeah, plus than 50 now. I think there are about 70 wineries, yes. And they're scattered across Lebanon, not just, we have wineries in Batroun, in the Bekaa, in the south. So it's not only the Bekaa Valley. All of Lebanon's soil, ladies and gentlemen, is suitable for planting vines. We have at Masaya vines on Mount Lebanon overlooking the Bekaa, and we have grapes in Ras Baalbek, which is the eastern mountain range of Lebanon, and they're even of more interesting
But
quality.
the wines that were, the grapes that we're using are mainly grapes are from Lebanon, or do we go outside to get our wines?
No, you. Also, there are a couple of things that are in the mindsets. I mentioned the quality of the grapes, and this includes the timeline between picking the grapes and getting them to the vats. If you want to compete on the international market, you have to have, going on a racing horse, you have to have a racing horse on a racing track. Grapes, if they travel a long distance, there is no way you can make quality wine. They're all from Lebanon. And also I hear sometimes speculations about, a glass of red wine from Lebanon gives me a headache. Also, this is in the mindset. You have massive wineries everywhere. There are a couple of those in Lebanon. When you want to make wine, you have to make quality. And when you do too much of a big production, there are shortcuts. They add sulfites, and people can be sensitive to migraine. But let me assure you, wines from Lebanon and grapes quality from Lebanon is really unmatchable.
Let me continue with my remarks on at least improving the market share of of wines in Lebanon, in Canada. As a community, we can do this in two ways. First of all, we can ask the owners of our favorite restaurants to offer Lebanese wines on their menus. In my own case, I offer different ethnic wines because some of my clients have asked me to do so. So I urge each one of you in the audience to gently reach out to your local restaurateur and ask them to do the same. Second, we can petition the LCBO and the SAQ at the store and the corporate level to stock Lebanese wines. If they see that the demand is there, they will certainly be supportive. Maybe we can even link the SAQ with the promotion of Montréal en Lumière. But I don't want to conclude right away because we had talked about something that I think all of you wanted to elaborate on certain subjects that maybe we were not able to cover. So I would start with you, Maya. What would you like to add, and what do you think is the possibility for you today, for example, if you want to decide to bring a concept of a restaurant to Canada? What are your, what's stopping you from doing that?
First, I would want to say that in the last few days, I've explored a bit the area, the business here. And I definitely feel there's much more need for Lebanese concepts, Lebanese restaurants, all types, fast food, fine dining. Lebanese cuisine is so rich and wealthy. We cannot just have 3 or 4 restaurants, Lebanese, in a big city like Montreal.
True.
And I have my own part of blaming also. I would love to see Lebanese signage, Lebanese labeling on the restaurant, not Middle Eastern. So really, I really urge all Lebanese restaurant owners in Canada and Northern America to put Lebanese restaurants and Lebanese cuisine.
That's a hint to me.
No, this is to everyone. On the other hand, really, those who are not serving Lebanese cuisines, please do not put Lebanese cuisine
Absolutely.
on your doors.
I agree.
So
I agree
this is
100%.
something I would really want to do as justice for the Lebanese cuisine.
Anything else to add?
That's it.
Hamad, do you want to conclude with something that you would like to clarify?
I just want to go back to the comments. So she read my business card. It says Middle Eastern food. Let me tell you, our diversity, it's not, I mean, what I always say is diversity is a fact. Inclusion is our choice. If we were to come to Canada and separate between Middle Eastern themselves, when we do accept every other community, I have a problem with that. I rather call my restaurant Middle Eastern cuisine serving Lebanese food, or Middle Eastern cuisine run by Lebanese. So I can include everybody. I was just talking about how great is to break bread together. And I always, when I speak publicly, I always see 5 Lebanese walking together and 5 from Pakistan walking together and 5 from Afghanistan walking together. And the first thing I address them and I say, can you please don't sit like this, mix together, because you have nothing to teach each other. So we need to become inclusive by choice. And if we start by separating Lebanese food, you have the Israeli fights the Lebanese and the Palestinian who did the falafel and the other guy. No, I think we should be more inclusive while we advertise our Lebanese entrepreneurship. I always say these days the bottom line has changed. At my dad's time, my dad used to say profit. Profit is the most important thing. Today, I think the reason of success is 4 P's. The last comes the profit, the money. The first come the people. Today is a fight of not money and who's richer. Today is a fight of talent. Who can maintain and retain retention of talents? The second part is planet. Who can run a business profitable while you're worrying about the environment? And the third part is purpose. I take a pride that I run a company that when we were even one restaurant, and today at 70 locations worldwide, we run a company with a great purpose of giving back to the community. If you run a company that environmentally aware and a company that worries about the community, you will gather so many more people around you. Let me tell you, the vice president of Paramount is the senior vice president of McDonald's. He left McDonald's with a huge salary to come to work with a company with purpose. So that's very important. And then becomes the profit, right? Because if you have a company with purpose, if you have a company with good people, and you have a company that worries about the planet, who doesn't want to support a company that does good? Part of their DNA is donating and helping the community. So it's very important. A lot of people ask, what is the reason of success? And the last part is culture. Having the right culture of family. I always say the culture of Paramount is love. It's a love culture. You love your customer, you love your country, you love the food, you love each other, you love the staff, right? Having a great culture within your own company. The IKEA culture. Making your executive feel part of the creation.
But I have to, as a moderator, I'm not allowed to give my point of view, but here I would like to add something. I think it's about time that all Lebanese restaurants call themselves Lebanese restaurants, okay? Because if we don't do, we are diluting who we are and what we stand for. And in the beginning, I was one of them where we had always an issue that, you know what, you were always skating and avoiding. But I think by doing that, we're harming our culture, we're harming our values. I, for one, I have a Lebanese fish restaurant, and that will be on all my cards.
Yeah.
Okay? But we have to face that fact because
it's true,
it keeps going back and forth, and I think we have to talk about it. It's a big elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it, but I think it's time now that, we've done enough.
Paramount Lebanese Kitchen is a Paramount Lebanese restaurant. So Paramount, it says Lebanese Kitchen. But I'm still going to insist to the point. In Canada, we need to always take an inclusive approach to the world. And if we do not include others, right, we can't ask to be included.
I agree.
That said, specifying the type of food is absolutely right. Nor Adonis said that Adonis is a Lebanese supermarket. It doesn't, right?
But I have to, again, disagree with you on one thing.
It's always good to disagree.
Our essential problem is that we are integrated, so we are already part of the society. So I think we should give our culture its due value and move ahead with it.
Absolutely.
Sami, anything to add?
Two things. Let me reiterate that a bottle of wine, ladies and gentlemen, from Lebanon is a message of civility, of tolerance, of our education, of our openness. This is the most beautiful gift you can offer from your own and about the image of your country. In the name of the Temple of Bacchus that stands today in the Bekaa Valley, and every vine farming person in Lebanon, I invite you to offer and resonate Lebanese wines, be it in your beautiful restaurants, or in your homes, or in your social events. And a second remark, I have started Masaya in '98. It's our 20th anniversary. And not once have I seen any person in the political establishment that has done the drive Minister Basile has done, be it through the Agriculture Ministry, be it through the LDE, all the efforts you are embracing and energizing and bringing together in terms of energizing Lebanon and Lebanon's image is really unique. I have never seen the Lebanese establishment as a state back in any way. You have friends here that are from the diverse part of the industry. I produce and work in Lebanon. Besides your own personal efforts and your own personal energy that you have put on that chapter, and I take the occasion of having
Sami,
ambassadors from the South America.
Your time is clicking.
Sorry, sorry.
Your time is clicking.
Done?
Yeah. Not yet.
I wanted to just thank them for thinking Mercosur. We discussed it earlier, and I think this would be huge for Lebanese food and particularly wines.
Sumaya,
Thank you.
what would you like to finish with?
I would like to finish on the end that I think that my business predominantly just operates in Lebanon, and 90% or 95% of my sales are generated from a loyal Lebanese customer base. So for me, I believe Taka cracked Lebanese trade. The last confectionery factory was established in 1857, which we all know as Ghandour. Since then, today, if I ask you, as a Lebanese, what cookie comes to mind, you will tell me either dabke, شو اسمه, the little Ghandour cookies. So I believe that Taka is the confectionery factory that has come after Ghandour. I'm very proud of what this little cookie company has established and done so far. وآمن بالصناعة اللبنانية. I really profoundly believe in it, and I think you're right that we need to work a lot to insist and persist on quality, because it is one, but it's starting, and I see changes, aggressive changes happening across the food and beverage industry in Lebanon. So to that, I say that's
Well, I
it.
promise
Thank
you
you
I'll
for
be your
having me on
ambassador.
the panel.
I promise you I will be your ambassador for your products in Canada. In conclusion, I would like to
How
thank
can
our
you not?
panelists.
How can you not?
In conclusion, I would like to say our panelists have provided us with more than food for thought. Thank you again for our panelists, and thank you all for your anticipated support.
Wait, yeah.
Now?
I
I'd like to remind everyone to please pick up their gala tickets outside at the registration booths if you haven't done so already. And I also would like to thank everybody for joining us today. We will begin tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., so we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you again to our final session, the Gastro Diplomacy.